Yo, what's good, YouTube? How's everybody doing today? Like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into this reaction.
A month into President Trump's term, some border agents say his executive order on immigration appears to be working. Thousands of migrants are even giving up mid-journey. They're already on their way, and then they're going back home. What does that tell you?
You know, it tells
Yes,
me
sir.
that as troops flood the U.S. border, something that nobody thought would ever take place is actually happening. America is now seeing reverse migration as the people we were told fled poverty and oppression without a country to return to are now voluntarily turning around and returning to those very same places. And if all it took were a handful of the world's best trained troops to secure our border, that can only mean it's been kept open all of these years on purpose.
But now the Pentagon is sending up to 3,000 more troops to the southern border. The military might coming as the White House pressures Mexico to ramp up its security efforts on the other side of the wall.
For the first time ever, media was able to
Look at
get
these boys.
access to a specialized operations group within Border Patrol. It is an
It's a
elite
shame they even
unit
have to
where
do
they
this
work
at all.
specifically to target the worst of the worst, while also working to save lives.
Cartel operatives have reportedly had to move labs to
Shit
other
looks
parts of the country
crazy.
or temporarily stop production. Other cartel members are becoming more afraid of
what?
being arrested.
That's the
One person
fucking
telling the New York
cartel, bro?
Times, "You can't be calm, you can't even sleep."
Defiant immigration activists are now trying all they can to stop ICE agents. They've been showing up to raids with megaphones and cameras, and now they're trying to dox agents across the Los Angeles area.
The left has lost their mind. It's all of a sudden the ones
people
who
are
enforce the law,
absolute
the bad
lunatics.
guys, the one who break the law, the victims. I'll say it again. We are prioritizing public safety threats. These are the worst of the worst walking around your communities.
It's a shame we even have to do this at all. Like, look how far our country has fell. This is literally absolutely preposterous. Preposterous.
So as the greatest army in the world begins securing its own nation's border, nobody is shocked at the result. Nobody except the two groups who benefited the most from America's open border and never wanted it to close. And that would be gang members and progressive politicians, both of whom have benefited immensely from what has been described as an epidemic of modern slavery, masquerading as a humanitarian crisis where dangerous gangs and cartels get rich, trafficking people into America who go on to benefit corrupt political interests, who use them as pawns in a scheme to defraud our country while riling up voters against who they say is an evil president that hates immigrants but is somehow married to one. And with the US border seeing the lowest levels of immigration since Eisenhower was president, America's enemies are doing everything they can to reverse this new trend, while desperately trying to continue business as usual, with the cartels changing their smuggling tactics in an attempt to sneak their indentured prisoners into the country, where in sanctuary cities like New York, backwards local laws continue opening up new asylum shelters as our progressive leaders take credit for resisting President Trump. Which brings us to the real reason securing the border is so important. Not doing it just allows the enemies of America to continue destroying it while vulnerable people continue to be trafficked and exploited. Which doesn't just happen in sanctuary cities that harbor gang members and criminals. Oh no, this exploitation, which operates on an industrial scale, starts the second these gangs cross our border.
Look at this video we wrote along with the Pinal County Sheriff's Office. They were specifically targeting minibuses and small vans. One man that they got off one of those vans said he paid $8,000 to get smuggled into the country.
$8,000. That's what smugglers in generic-looking vans earn carting people around our country. People who in many cases wind up in sanctuary cities, where they're held out as victims to fuel America's hostile progressive power base, which secretly has no plans to personally employ or house the very people stuck in the humanitarian disaster it's created. And that disaster has empowered and enriched gangs and criminals who are now too strong for even the Mexican government to deal with. And as you're about to see, the US military could soon find itself inside Mexico, tracking them down.
Those troopers will be joining the already 9,200 troops here on the border that have been deployed under President Trump since he has taken office. Those troopers will be included from the 4th Infantry Division and 2nd Stryker Brigade, and will focus on sealing key points along the southern border. These troopers will also be equipped with 20-ton Stryker combat vehicles, and these
Okay, so over 12,000 troops are at the border, and these are not just any troops. They're ready for what looks like a counterinsurgency mission, driving around in these mobile Stryker infantry carrier vehicles, which have machine guns and 40mm grenade launchers. Now, it's important to understand these vehicles aren't tanks. They're fast personnel carrying offensive weapons, which will help our troops rapidly respond to any threat along any part of the border as soon as it arises. And if you think that's overkill, just look at who these vehicles and these troops are at the border to stop.
Cartel operatives have reportedly had to move labs to other parts of the country.
Yeah, like, why does the cartel even have that at all? That's how much money they made off of, like, killing our people with fentanyl and shit? I wish I could do more, but I don't know what to do.
Or temporarily stop production. Other cartel members are becoming more afraid of being arrested. One person telling the New York Times, "You can't be calm, you can't even sleep because you..."
Okay, do we really want the guys that we just saw on the news right here to be sleeping peacefully at night with all of their weapons and all of their evil plans? Of course not. But these people have been sleeping soundly and making piles of money for decades, and nothing's been done about it. That's how they were able to afford all of this military-grade equipment you see them carrying. And they aren't using all of those weapons to care for the immigrants that they are helping bring into the country, that's for sure. Their weapons, their ordnance, all of that is used to enslave and indenture these people, and this has been going on for so long that these groups are now so powerful, there's very little the Mexican government can do to stop them.
And these additional forces and troops will be primarily stationed on the Arizona border. This move comes as HEXF is warning Mexican officials that failure to curb collusion between the country's government and cartels could result in the U.S. military taking action, according to the Wall Street Journal.
So the reason our military is headed to the border is because there's another military down there already, a military which is in collusion in many ways with the Mexican government itself. And this alleged collusion with a foreign government makes this look like a hostile state-sponsored force. And even though I've got nothing against Mexico, it's hard to see them as our friend or our border partner when they're postured up like this and have been for quite some time. And to Mexico's credit, they are starting to do things like put troops along the border to help secure it every time the topic of tariffs comes up. But apparently the 10,000 troops they did send to the border last month haven't been enough, which is why our troops could soon be sent into Mexico to combat these cartels with the help of special forces.
The U.S. is also relying on an elite tactical unit for targeted operations. News Nation gained exclusive access to Border Patrol's elite force trained to track and capture high-risk cartel operatives, also known as BORTAC.
So these elite troops storming houses, that's what's going to start happening in Mexico if need be to get these cartel members and to stop them from running their operations. And it's important to remember that the victims of these cartels, they're women, children, and other individuals who are essentially being used as money mules. These individuals are being sent across to America by these cartels. They report being kidnapped. They report being photographed and monitored by these gang members. This is a sophisticated operation. And the reason that's done is to make sure that anybody that is in the care of the cartel pays their bills after they get across the border. They know exactly who these people are, and if they do end up making their way to a sanctuary city like New York, if they didn't have the money to pay when they crossed, you better believe that some awful job or 2 or 3 awful jobs will be found for these people to illegally work to pay off what they owe these gang members. These are traffickers they caught in the United States.
David 2604. If you want to bring them back to my car, we can start getting their shoelaces and all that off. Yep. So he crossed. How much did he pay a month ago when he crossed? $8,000 for him? Okay. He came across for free.
Okay, this guy right here in the white hoodie, this is one of the traffickers because he came across for free, and his friend here in the black jacket, this guy paid $8,000 to get across the border. That's insane. And then as police go through their stuff, these wrapped up bags, there's actually money in here. They found $100,000 in this generic looking white van. And the scary thing about this is that the guy who came in for free, he didn't just come in because he wants to live in America and pursue the American dream. No, he came in to monitor the person that he's trafficking and all the money that they've got. He's part of a business operation. He probably crosses the border multiple times a month. And when we think of these Mexican cartels, we think of a heavily armed operation, yes, but one that stays predominantly in Mexico. But here you've got people that are apprehended in America who are part of these organizations. We don't want people like this in our country. What they're doing here is wholly incompatible with American values. They're exploiting people and they're tracking them and they're enslaving them in this criminal underworld that lurks beneath the surface of what people see every day when they live their lives here. And this is why workplace enforcement type raids are so important. That's where many victims of these cartels are discovered, working away for years to pay off what they owe. These people don't have a choice. Their lives are on the line if they don't pay their bills. And the employers that are taking these people, they're doing it to save money. So they get exploited again because they don't benefit from any of the workplace protections we have in this country. And when you see how easily these cartels have been able to get people into the country, your head is gonna spin.
Attempting to use a ladder. That one had hooks on the top. That's
Look,
to get
he's
up
got
and
a
over
ladder.
the wall.
This
But their
guy's just
strategy
walking
was no
towards
match
the
for the
wall with a
manpower on
ladder.
the ground and in the air. And the show of force
these-
really seems to be working.
These people have huge freaking balls to just be doing this, and we're the United States of America, and we're supposed to be the strongest country. Like, why do they think that they can poke the bear like this? That's what I don't understand.
Too, because those numbers there, the 2,700 in a single day, down to about 60. And Border Patrol says that migrants are actually turning back on their own because there's such a deterrence on the U.S. side. But that also means the cartel isn't making its money.
These guys were using medieval technology to scale walls, and they've been making $13 billion a year with ladders. That's how easy this has been for them. But you heard it right here. People are starting to turn around. They're realizing, hey, it's not a good idea to put myself in the hands of criminals if those criminals are just going to get stopped and apprehended before they even take my entire life savings and get me into the country. And this new trend of people turning around and heading home, this goes completely against what we've been told about our border and about this crisis from the very beginning. We've been told that people are fleeing extreme poverty and war zones and all kinds of things that are terrible, but a little bit of increased border security is enough to have them say, well, you know, we'll just head home. That shows that there's something else going on here. Perhaps people that have $8,000 to turn over to cartel members that might not even be worth anything if they get caught aren't as bad off as we've been told. This chart right here shows how the Venezuelan crime rate has just absolutely plummeted because apparently many criminals are coming to America now. They're coming here because it's more profitable to be a criminal in this country than it is in the country they were from. So they're doing it for economic reasons. And as you're about to see, the worst part about all of this is that it's all been entirely preventable.
Yeah, so what's interesting, let's show you here where the wall ends. This is what's been exploited by the criminal
just ends.
cartel for
The wall
years
just
now.
stops.
People were quite literally running right through this gap and right in front of our cameras. But as you can see, there's this vehicle barrier all the way up this ridge. Chris, let's go up this hill here and show them. So this is to stop vehicles, ATVs, any kind of SUV, motorcycle, anything.
This is crazy. Look at how much open space there is right there. Anybody could just go right around the wall and literally just get into the country. That's insane. And then after people get into the country, the way the rules used to work was that they would get paroled and be able to stay here and then decide if they're going to apply for asylum or to figure out some legal pathway to potentially remaining in America. But as it turns out, this parole loophole, which affects 500,000 people, might soon be closed. Roughly 530,000 migrants entered the U.S. under the Biden administration program that allowed foreign nationals with sponsors living in the country to work and stay here for up to 2 years. Apparently, hundreds of people in this sponsorship program all used the same physical address as if they were flying here and had a sponsor who was at the same location as the sponsor for 99 other people. And that reveals an underbelly to this crisis that is very, very disturbing because people without a sponsor, they were able to get one somehow, and they were the same sponsor that sponsored hundreds of others. This entire crisis has just been a front for the worst criminals on our planet to make money off others, while the politicians defending open borders act like none of this is going on. In fact, they say it's wrong for any type of crackdown on these criminal organizations to take place. And they're now taking matters into their own hands to stand up to and stop ICE.
These posters that you're looking at on your screen right now have been spotted in several neighborhoods. Now, they contain photos, names, and phone numbers of ICE agents. These pathetic activists are putting targets on the backs of our law enforcement as they shield MS-13, Tren de Aragua, and other vicious gangs that traffic women.
You've got to be in denial of reality. to support this type of activism. I mean, these are the worst of the worst criminals, and they're all over the place, and they're working against the interests of the very people that these activists claim to truly care about. And that's what's so shocking about this whole debate on illegal immigration. You've got people who somehow believe that folks paying $8,000 ransoms to thugs driving vans are so poverty-stricken they don't have any money whatsoever and have nowhere to live other than in a New York City asylum shelter. And while many of these same individuals are returning to countries that are now safer than they were just a few years ago, you've got people in America who have no idea what's going on. But they hate President Trump so much that they have accepted the premise that we as a country are doing something immoral by turning these people around and sending them into the clutches of gang members and criminals, when that's exactly where they are right now in America.
I got a security detail. The left has lost their minds. It's all of a sudden the ones who enforce the law, the bad guys, the one who break the law, the victims. We're not going to let them slow us down. We're not going to be bullied. We're not going to be intimidated. What we're going to do in these cities, we'll double the manpower. We'll flood those neighborhoods with DEA, ATF, FBI, and ICE. We'll double.
So we've got a political party in this country now which has decided that everything good is evil and everything evil is good. That's extremely dangerous. And these are people who are now advocating actively on behalf of criminals. Not just the cartels who enslave people, but also the gangs like Tren de Aragua from Venezuela, who are prevalent in many sanctuary cities and prey upon and hurt the very immigrant communities these politicians say they exist to advocate for. But there's no advocacy for the working class neighborhoods in New York City flooded with gang members. And there's no advocacy for the people trapped working dead-end jobs, 2 or maybe even 3 of them, to pay back massive debts to these cartels and gang members. They're essentially being enslaved to support criminal enterprises. What do you think about this? Are troops at the border a good thing? Are these ICE crackdowns gonna make everybody safer? Or are the activists right? Is this a bad thing for America? Should we reopen the border? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
Well, obviously, I definitely think we should close the border. And I'm actually happy that Tom Homan is we actually have a border czar now. So, yeah, America's future does look brighter. But there's a lot of damage that has been done, and we have a lot of work to do. And I'm ready to put in the work. I'm trying. I don't really know what to do. But if we all just play our parts, I'm sure that we can get this done and settled. But anyways, YouTube, it's been your boy, Isri. I hope y'all have a nice day. And take it easy, okay? Take it easy.